How's the stock market doing? Let me ask you this question. Is the stock market doing better than the people losing their jobs?
Yeah, Rivera says it's doing okay.
The stock market. It is. And there's 40 million people without a job.
Yeah, it's improved
Is there
since
a
it first
correlation
dropped.
between the stock market and the economy? The answer is no. That's a misnomer. Okay, I answered question 3, I already covered. Question 5, we have a spelling error. Okay, I covered that. Covered that. It's an interesting question. We're going to have to edit question 8. The question is, as businesses are reopening, consumers are spending at pre-COVID-19 levels. It depends on the business, right? So we got to change that as restaurants are reopening. Okay?
Yep, noted.
Okay. What do you think the answer to that is? Are people spending as much money in restaurants now as they did before COVID-19?
No.
No.
Well, the individual person may, but not enough people are, right? Okay. Oh, it's okay. Question 9. Back in February, I mentioned this earlier. I mentioned this answer to this question earlier, but I'm going to redo it. Back in February, a guy from New Zealand basically said, act like you have it. If you act like you have it, that gives us the best chance of controlling it. He was from New Zealand. Remember that. Question 10. Question 11. The global economy will bounce back rapidly after COVID-19. What do you think about that?
It'll go back slowly, not fast.
I think I'd agree with you on that. Even though
Isn't a V-shaped bounce back bad for the economy altogether?
I don't know that it's bad. I just don't think it's going to happen. Right? See, in 2008, there was one sector of the economy that was the issue. Just one sector, right? It affected a lot of other ones, but once you fix that one sector, you were able to fund it, you were able to get things, and you've had this nice bull run over the last decade as a result of that. And unemployment down to 3%, right? This one is different because it isn't one part of the economy, it's everything. It's all parts of the economy. And so it's going to recover in pieces, but it's going to be slow because we're not, I'm not a prophet here, but we're not at the base, we're not at the bottom. People seem to think this is stabilized. My economics friends and I are going, yeah, right. We keep looking at the horizon going, we don't know how this math works. We think it could get worse. Okay, so let me ask you this question. How does the government of Russia and Iran get most of their money? What do they sell that finances their country? Oil. Okay. So do you think that they were budgeting based on the price of oil prior to COVID-19, or were the budget based on the price of oil now?
Pre.
Probably
Correct.
agree.
How long can they go when their economies are dependent on one major commodity with it at a third of what it was when they budgeted?
Not very long.
And so what's going to happen?
War.
Well, they have to do something to distract their population. In the case of Iran, it's difficult for them to do much because they don't have the funding to fund the groups that basically are the more militant groups, Hezbollah, those types of things. Russia is in a somewhat desperate state. And we're just because of the COVID-19 and they're a fossil fuel-based economy. And I have mentioned this before, maybe not in this class. You heard me comment on Italy's economy a while ago, and I didn't give them particularly glowing, accolades. They're 3 spots ahead of Russia in GDP. And so Russia gets an inordinate amount of attention because, number one, of their size. They're huge, right? Not necessarily the number of people, but they're just the landmass that they cover. And secondly, they're an aggressive nuclear power. But it used to be the Soviet Union, right? It's not the Soviet Union anymore, it's Russia. And so there's a strategic way of dealing with that for the West, your EU and America, to deal with it. But that's all been upended with this current administration. And we'll just have to see how that plays out in November. Okay, so let's talk about the European Union. Key countries in the dominant country in the European Union is Germany. We know that the UK and their idiocy decided to Brexit out with the help of the Russians and social media, right? Same thing had happened in this country, but it happened there first. No Brexit, no Donald Trump. If Brexit hadn't gone through, he would not have Donald Trump. But it did go through. Bare by the skin of their teeth, but it went through. It's an absolute disaster for them economically. But you have a lot of the population there that, once again, didn't take an economics course. And so now that they're kind of in and not kind of in, Germany's always been kind of the dominant, even though the UK was the biggest at the time. Germany kind of is the dominant of the EU, and the other countries get a little annoyed at that, right? One of the more dominant ones then is France after Germany. What do you think Italy fits in the EU, financially? How stable do you think they are?
Not too much, I think.
I'm thinking, yeah, we're good at a lot of things. That's financial discipline. The Italians, not that, okay. Better than Greece, though.
Well, it's hard to beat Greece.
Okay. Now, since COVID-19, would you rather have a business where you're exchanging cash with people or where all the transactions were done digitally, touchless?
Touchless.
Bingo. And that's one of the growing markets. So when we put Cafe Mucci together at my entrepreneur class, the requirement was no money, that we would only do transactions digitally. Not because of COVID-19, but because of the efficiency.
Do you see a boom in cryptocurrency because of COVID-19?
The answer to that is yes. I don't know the relevancy of it, though. It's way too speculative for me because, you can have anything as a currency, right? I mean, they used to trade chickens. And so the US dollar happens to be the dominant currency now, only because people choose to do that. I think a lot of transactions, off the book transactions, which is about 40% of the global economy, are not regulated. Unregulated part, cryptocurrency makes sense to me. I mean, you have what's the app that people use that secures the messaging that all the people in government have, WhatsApp or WhatsApp or whatever. right? Yes, I just don't understand it well enough to comment much beyond that. Okay, I'm going to read you this. I'm going to give you a 16 because it's a resilience combined with agility must be the new focus of business leaders as we all emerge from this crisis. What do you think the answer to that is? Resilience combined with agility must be the new focus of business leaders as we all emerge from the crisis.
I'd say that's true.
I think I'd agree with you.
Hmm.
A business that's resilient and is able to bounce back and to adapt and with the current situation.
Okay, so since COVID-19, has that been good or bad for the climate? COVID-19.
Relatively good.
Because we've reduced the amount of carbon that's burning, and we can see that from the satellites. Question 20, even before the pandemic, globalization was in trouble. That's a bad question because and trouble wouldn't be the right word.
I would
Globalization was being challenged. Let's put it that way.
I would say yes because of
That's true. That is true.
the implementations.
Trouble's too strong of a word. If we could change that to,
Hmm.
Globalization was being challenged.
What
So,
question was that? 20?
20, yeah. Okay, we good?
I think so. If there's any questions.
I want to get a grade from Rachel. So she's never been from my classes. What kind of grade you gonna give me?
I want to say 8 out of 10 because I think that's a very good class. I really like how you had the questions at the end to review. And honestly, I don't know why I put it at 8 out of 10. I can't think of anything really wrong with the class, but that was my gut rating, if that makes sense.
Sure. My original Rachel, right, was a dancer. And her struggle was, as a competitive dancer, 10 was the only acceptable score. I don't need 10s. You get 35 judges, right, in class? You're not going to get 10s from everybody, right? So what you try to do is you try to all I have to do is get a better number than my competing alternatives, right? Now, I don't know what my alternatives are other than what my students tell me.